Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today will be my final 7-round mock draft for the New York Jets. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And on Thursday, over on Jets Talk 24/7's channel, we will be live streaming our reactions to the entire first round in the Talkin' Jets panel, so you're going to want to tune into that as well. So let's get this thing rocking and rolling. We got to start with round 1, pick 11. I have the New York Jets selecting Andrew Thomas. Thomas is a 6'5", 315-pound guard out of Georgia. He's a 3-year starter in the SEC. He's ready to step in and play left tackle right now, which is exactly what the New York Jets need. I think 2 tackles are taken in the top 10, and I think Thomas is probably the third. I think Wills and Wirfs are going to go to Cleveland and Arizona, so that leaves Thomas there for the New York Jets at 11, and I think Joe Douglas would be running in to get that pick in. Round 2, pick 48, I'm going with everyone's darling, Michael Pittman, wide receiver out of USC. I thought for a very long time he's more of a third-round talent, but with how the board is breaking on the wide receivers, I think his stock is going to continue to rise up, and him being a pick in the middle of the second round just makes more and more sense. At 6'4", 223, he's a really big target. He's a possession receiver. He can go up and get the ball. He's got good size, and he has a connection with Sam Darnold from his USC days, so I think this pick makes a ton of sense for the New York Jets, who need to add to the wide receiver group as well. Here comes a trade. So the New York Jets have Avery Williamson at inside linebacker, who didn't play at all last year. They have so much depth at this position, and they brought in C.J. Mosley's running mate from the Baltimore Ravens, so I think that shows you that Williamson's out the door. I think Joe Douglas gets on the horn with his old team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and offers them the 68th overall pick, the Jets' first third-round pick, and Avery Williamson to move back into the second round. So in round 2, with pick number 53 now, thanks to that trade, I have the New York Jets going with KJ Hamler, wide receiver out of Penn State. Yes, I have the New York Jets doubling up on wide receiver in the second round. He is a smaller slot receiver at 5'9", $178. He's an explosive slot target with really good athleticism. So you get the big guy, you get the complement small speedster that you could put in the slot. Yes, I know Crowder can play in the slot as well. I just want to add as much depth and uniqueness to the wide receiver position as possible. And I think both of those guys could do just that. So increase your odds at hitting on one of those 2 wide receivers. Best case scenario, both of them hit. Round 3, pick 79, I have the New York Jets going with Brice Hall, cornerback out of Virginia. When looking at the defensive side of the ball, one of the areas of weakness is definitely the cornerback position, and Hall is a big press corner that I think the Jets would like a lot. He's 6'1", 202 with long arms, and if we know Greg Williams likes a specific type of player, it's a physical player, and that's exactly what Hall is. I've seen some people say that he could go as early as the second round. I've seen other people who aren't as high on him who have him projected to go in the fourth round. Towards the middle to back half of the third round, I think makes sense for him, and I have the New York Jets adding depth to their cornerback room. Round 4, pick 120, I have Tyler Biadasz, center out of Wisconsin, getting taken here. He's 6'4", 314. His draft stock has really fallen. Injuries is the reason for that, but I think the Jets don't need him to start from day one. This would be a developmental pick, and I think his ceiling is relatively high. People early in mock drafts had him in the late first, early second. That became the third to now the fourth round. But if he's sitting there at 120, I can't think of a better developmental inside offensive lineman to take in this spot. And I think he could sit behind McGovern for a year or two. And if anything, he just provides depth, something the New York Jets lack at a position of need. Round 5, pick 158, I have Anthony McFarland, running back out of Maryland. He's a smaller body running back. He's 5'8", 208. He has some pretty good speed for his size. His 2018 tape is better than his 2019 tape because he had a high ankle sprain in 2019. But I think he is someone who could step right in and be RB2. The New York Jets have not brought back Bilal Powell yet. I am a big Bilal Powell fan, as you know if you've watched the channel before. But as it stands, running back is a position of need, and I think drafting someone to be a developmental second running back for the long term makes a ton of sense. McFarland, I've seen go in the fourth round. I think that's probably too early. I've seen him fall in the sixth to some mocks, but in the fifth round, I like his value there, and I think that would be a good pickup for the New York Jets, who should be looking to add running back in the mid to late rounds. Round 6, pick 191, I have Trayvon Hill, edge defender out of Miami. He's 6'3", 248. He's played both up and down as an edge defender. He had relatively good success last year in a limited starting role. He did get dismissed from his earlier college before moving over to Miami, but I think in the 6th round, it's worth taking a swing on a guy like this. The upside could be there, and again, when you're taking a 6th rounder, it's a developmental pick. Edge is definitely a position of need on the New York Jets defense. The only position I look to address in the draft is corner and edge, and I think you have to take at least one swing on the edge. Round 6, 211, I have the Jets doubling up on edge. Derrick Tusker out of North Dakota State. He's 6'4", 251. He's a 3-year starter where he had 29.5 sacks. The thing with him is the competition level. He's playing at a smaller school. Will he be able to transition to the NFL and become a 3-4 outside linebacker? It's a question mark. But again, when you're taking 6th round guys, they are developmental swings. I am completely okay with this ratio going 5 offensive players, 3 defensive players, obviously leaning heavy offense, and taking a couple of swings at edge, which has been a position of need for over a decade. It's an important position as well. If neither of those two guys hit, that's a position to attack in the draft in 2021. Cornerback, I'm just looking to add depth to. I think you can get by with Blesson, Austin, and Desir as your starting outside corners, but just adding more depth to that room is definitely important as well. So what I wanted to do now was take a look at the projected depth chart after this draft. So we'll start with the wide receivers. You have Perryman and Pittman on the outside with Crowder in the slot. Enunwa have listed there because, yes, he's technically still on the roster, but if you're going into this year expecting anything out of Enunwa, I think you're going to be sorely mistaken when he can't really get on the field. Hamler provides depth in the slot. Doxson, I think, could potentially be a wide receiver 4 or 5 option for this team, best case scenario. Your starting linemen go Thomas, Lewis, McGovern, Van Roten, and Fant. I don't feel comfortable with Fant starting on the left side. I don't feel comfortable with Udoka starting on the right side. Udoka is as depth is fine. At tight end, you have Herndon, Griffin, and Brown. No reason to address that in the draft. Darnold and Fales as your cornerbacks, and as your 3 running backs, you have Bell, McFarland to back him up, and Josh Adams as running back number 3. On the defensive side, you have May and Adams as your starting safety, Farley as the backups. Cornerback situation, Desir and Austin starting on the outside, Poole in the slot. Mollett, Hall, and Hairston adding depth after that. On the edge, you have Jenkins on the outside, Luvu on the opposite side with Hill, Tuska, and Basham rotating in and out potentially. At inside linebacker, Mosley and Uwasu should be your starters. Defensive line, you're pretty stacked up. You have Quinnen Williams, Steve McClendon, Henry Anderson, Phillips, Fatukasi, and Shepard, who all had relatively good 2018 seasons, can rotate in and out. So that is what I have the New York Jets team doing in the draft and what they could look like outside of the draft. I am extremely excited to watch the draft this weekend, as you should be. Make sure to keep it locked to the channel for more draft content. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll talk to you next time.